Good morning, everybody. My name is Jared Morrison. I am an organization development consultant for the Learning and Organizational Development Unit with Ohio State University Extension. And I'm excited to welcome you all in this morning for our ACEL to Extension series. This is a wonderful partnership that we've had a lot of amazing feedback from. So we appreciate everyone that responds to those surveys and just anecdotally lets us know, but we've had a lot of good feedback about this series. But it was a partnership that came across from Extension and the Department of Agricultural Communication, Education, and Leadership. I have to thank my colleague Beth Flynn from the ACEL side of the house. She and I do a lot of the organizing, but also all of the faculty of ACEL. We appreciate them being involved. Please feel free to check out our webpage, which I'm dropping in the chat box if I can chat and type at the same time. But this is where you can find information about upcoming webinars. You can find recordings of our previous webinars. So please feel free to visit that webpage. That's go.osu.edu/ACEL to extension. And I'm excited to welcome you all in today for our specific topic is lights, camera, action with Dr. Emily Buck, who is a professor in the Department of ACEL and a director of the Graduate Studies and co-director of the OSU Leadership Center. So Dr. Buck, thank you so much for being here, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks. And after a year, I still can't remember where the mute button is on these things. And before I get started, Jared, I have to say one of the best sounds, you asked what one of the best sounds is, and I don't know about anybody else, but ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking off, and that on a plane would be my favorite sound that I have not heard in a long time. So welcome today, everybody. Today, this topic, lights, camera, action, it's a weird topic to me because I'd want to make sure that I'm not doing too basic for all of you. I know some in Extension do videos and some don't. So I'm going to go over some of the good things and bad things about videos and sort of what to think about as you're doing videos. But as we go, please feel free to ask questions, any thoughts that you have. So I want to make sure everybody gets what they need from this workshop. So what I want to do is I want to start with a video. We'll see if this will work for us, hopefully. So a little dramatic trailer there. I don't know if anybody's seen that video. Next 30 Harvests put out by the U.S. Farm and Ranchers Alliance. It's actually a friend of mine who's the star of that. But I wanted to play that, and I wanted to get your opinions. What are the things you noticed about that little video clip? I'm going to make you talk at 9 in the morning. What did you notice?
It told a story in a short period of time.
Yeah.
There wasn't any like verbal content to it. It was all music and, video.
Right. We can get feeling very quickly without even hearing sound or hearing voice. It quickly draws you in and makes you want to be invested. Yeah. The music. Anything else you noticed? Change the scenes. Yep. Short and sweet. And definitely. And that's the thing that we have to keep in mind. Now, this is a trailer, obviously, to a video that's a little bit longer. I can't even remember how long it is. It's not terribly long, maybe 20 minutes or so. But it gives us the idea of what a good video looks like. When we're doing videos, none of us probably have the production ability that they did for this video. But we can all do dynamic videos with the resources that we have. Even free resources, we can do a lot of these things because it comes down to, honestly, your planning and thinking through what you want the video to look like, and the different pieces. Yeah, Julie, the audience, the traditional farmers and those who care about, yep, knowing that audience. And so there's some definite things that we need to think about to make sure that those videos are hitting their point and hitting that sort of feels, which I think that does a very good job of doing for anybody who's in agriculture, which is who that audience was for. Simple fact that I love throwing out there that I think all of us need to be reminded when we're trying to change conversations and we're trying to talk about things. For every negative message out there, you need 4 positive to combat it. And in extension, we're not necessarily trying to combat negative messages, but there's times when we're hearing, misinformation, and we're trying to get information out to combat misinformation about things. And it's important to know that it takes 4 to each one. So, everything we can do can make a huge difference. So, videos are just one of those tools that we can use to get that next piece out there that can be really impactful. So what I want us to do today is really to just think through what is a good video. Yes, there's this 4-to-1 ratio. And Julie, I have to find the source for that because honestly, I do know, I have it written down somewhere, but I heard it a while ago. So videos, the big thing, this comes down to any type of communication, whether you're thinking you're doing a video or you're doing an ad or you're doing an op-ed piece for a newspaper, it all does come back down to planning and knowing who is the audience. That is the most important piece. That video, of Jay there, it would not be impactful at all if I was sending that out to, say, my sister who is an urban housewife who knows nothing about agriculture or involved in it at all. It wouldn't have the same impact to her that it would to me or my home family. So we need to think about who is that audience. We need to think about what is the message? What is the goal for the video? A lot of times people will say, well, we need a video for this, or we want a video for that. But you've got to slow people down and say, well, what is this video actually going to do? What is our goal? What is the message? And we've got to realize that we can't put a ton of messages out there. It can't be the catch-all for everything. You've got to have a very specific, 1 or 2 goals for the video, or it's going to get too cluttered and then something is going to get lost in translation. So making sure you think through that, thinking through who is the talent, and I say talent roughly, but who is going to be in the video. And there takes some thought that needs to be done with that, because we need to think about who's the right person to reach this audience. If we're talking about 4-H members, an older adult is probably not the talent that's going to reach them and make an impact as much as maybe one of their peers. And I know you guys know this, you're experienced professionals, but we really need to step back and really think through those things. And then you need to think about where are we shooting? What are we shooting? What's going to be needed, and what did you, where could you go visit? Where could you see? Have you seen this place before? So as we think through planning, some of the stuff that we need to also consider is, what is this video going to be for us? Some of you may be interested in having like a vlog series where you're doing series of videos. Some of you may be doing a video that's just a one-off where it's just an information video. Those are 2 different things, right? If it's a vlog, it's something that's a series, it needs to have consistency between every episode. And so you need to think through that, and you need to think through that early on, because you want it to be branded, thought through from day one. You don't want to do one or two and then all of a sudden change your opening and closing themes, and then people don't realize that it's part of it. So any good, YouTube series that you watch will have a very dynamic opening and a very dynamic closing that is consistent from video to video. So thinking through that, if it's, just a one-off video, but that's a series of one-off like instructional videos, even then you may still want to have a very consistent opening from your county, using some of the branding, any of those kinds of things, but that you need to think through that with whoever you're working with on such a video. If you look at videos on YouTube, the top videos on YouTube that you'll find are educational videos and sort of those how-to videos. And then sort of product reviews are very popular. Those are sort of the top video types that we'll see on YouTube. But we also have ones that are case studies. We have ones that just tell stories. If you have a child, my 8-year-old loves watching videos of people telling stories about, her favorite is Snake Discovery, which is a video series about a snake breeding family in Minnesota that she wants to visit this summer now. But they have a very unique, story that they're continually telling. And I threw this on their images. Every video is about images, right? So those are always very, very popular videos on YouTube, of the ones that have the most dynamic imagery. So what we need to do is we need to think about how you're going to tell whatever message you're thinking about your goals of the video. You want to think about it in terms of a story, and you want to think about it in terms of how you're going to plan out that story. And any good story, as we learned, way back in first grade, has a beginning to the story, a conflict to the story, some form of climax, then it goes into sort of that deflation into that resolution. And I think you're like, well, I'm trying to do a video on, water quality or, current manure management practices. How do I have a story? Well, there's still a way to tell a story. There's still a way to give the beginning of what you're getting into, the conflicts that could be happening if we don't follow these things, and what's drawn us to needing these practices, and then how we answer these practices. Even a how-to video, knowing why we need to how to this thing becomes part of a story. So thinking through parts of your story as you think through what your goals and your messages are. And what that's going to do is it's going to help you think about what's your B-roll. It's going to help you when we get to the text portions of what do we need to pre-plan. Because video, I always tell my undergrads always want to just go out and shoot. And you've got to stop and plan with video, because there's so many complex moving parts to a video that you really need to have a plan before you head out to shoot, or you're going to miss something. You're going to get back to the office to put it together, and there's going to be a portion missing that you then can't have or can't go get. You want to script write. You actually want to go through and think about what is the script. And this is an example of a script, having graphics. You can put your graphics and say, these are sort of the things I want, but this is the actual text that's going to be said. Sometimes we want it to be scripted word for word. Sometimes it's going to be a little more generic when we're doing an interview. Maybe it's you're scripting your questions to a farmer or to a specialist, and then maybe they're giving their own response. But for you, if you're the one sort of leading the discussion, you want to make sure you have a good script. You've thought out the words. I know, when we do, I'm sure all of you at this point have done videos on Zoom or something for workshops, and you start talking and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't mean to say it that way. The more we have a script, the less time you're going to have in the editing room. So if you can script things out, the better off your time will be used. So thinking about scripting, and when we think about scripting, I see Emily is on here and she probably could give us a whole understanding of how we do this, but it's actually writing for the eye when we're doing broadcast scripting. It is not, it's not just regular like writing an essay type of script. These are conversational texts. This is what somebody is going to say. And a lot of times they've got to be really simple sentences, really brief sentences. We're talking present tense. We're talking few figures. We're going to use the combination of our words that we're saying along with some on-screen text to help get our message across. So as we write that script, we have to really write for the eye, something that's also going to be very easy to read, right? When you think about, broadcast writing, when somebody's writing for a teleprompter, they will even go out to the point that they write out days, months, dates, etc., to make it easy for whoever's reading the script at that moment. So they're not having to think, they can just read. I hate to say that, I mean, newscasters are thinking, but it makes it easier for them. So, rounding off numbers, making sure titles precede names, things like that, that really make it easier as you're thinking through your script. You don't want your video, if you're standing in front of the camera and you're talking, you don't want it to be very rigid or look like it's a staged speech. But if you do have somebody reading a teleprompter or something, you want to make sure that it's easy for them so they can look natural and feel natural when they're talking. A lot of times also it's just letting people say it in their own words can be helpful. But again, if you're narrating or doing anything like that, it does help to have that type of speech. And I can never emphasize enough the idea of using action verbs in any type of communication out to a consumer or a public. And with videos, remembering to pause. We tend to want to fill all silence holes, especially as teachers and educators. We have this, I think early instructors are always very nervous when there's just plain silence. I know there's some research and thought into that with education of, giving people time to process and to answer questions and things. And we need to do that with videos too, is it's okay to have a little bit of a pause for effect, for dramatic effect. And I think we even see that on that first video there, having that dramatic sort of pause and thought to let your viewer really take in the content. And as I'm going, seriously, if anybody has questions or thoughts, please yell. Beyond the text and the content of what you're going to say or what you're going to do, we also need to really think through, what are you going to capture? You really need to work through, before you ever set foot on a site, what are the images you're actually going to get? Because this is an extremely visual medium, right? If you don't think through it, like I said, you're going to forget and miss a shot. You're going to get back to your computer and be like, man, I wish I had a shot of that farmer, jumping into the combine. It would have been a really good sort of ending piece. So thinking through, what do you need to tell the story and what just extra B-roll that you could have. I always tell my students, the more B-roll you can get, the better, because even if you don't use it on this project, you can bank it for other things that you may need. I even tell my photography class, take more photos than you need, because you never know when you're going to need a stock image. So thinking through, you're never going to get more, you're never going to get too much, I guess. You probably maybe have seen these before, but storyboarding. We encourage in our AgCom classes for people to storyboard every communication piece they do, because it's good to put it out on paper and to really think about it. And then you can also get more feedback that way by sharing your ideas with others. But with video especially, thinking through, what is every shot going to be? And this is just like a formal example of, having the camera shot, and then what, some description of that shot. Is it going to be a panning of, for this example, it's a wine video, a panning of the vineyard, or do we want to have out and we want to go into some grapes, or grapes out? Thinking through that, are we going to have a long shot, a faraway shot of the person or of the bottle of wine or people drinking, thinking through what are those different shots and sort of the storyline that you want to go through. Think about it, you're almost putting on a play or a video essentially of, thinking through that. And these do not have to be formal. I found this one time when I was Googling storyboards to show some undergrads, and these don't have to be formal. These can be just you sketching it out on a napkin, right? Anything where you're just really thinking through what are these shots that you're going to want to get, and knowing that you're going to get there to shoot that day, and you're going to probably find some other things that are interesting, especially if you head out to a farm or an event. You always need you always will find something that you hadn't thought of, or an image or an angle. And so it's good to realize that we have these storyboards, and you definitely want to get these shots so you have exactly what you need. But it's okay to grab some extra here and there too for some of those stock shots, or for an additional change to a story. But having these storyboards is really good. Yeah, Jared, some good stick people are great, right? I'm really good at drawing the stick people here. But so I can't, as I was putting this together, I thought, man, they're gonna think I'm not really giving them much by just telling you to storyboard. But this is one of the most important things about a video. Yes, the equipment and yes, the editing becomes important, but you're gonna waste so much time doing that if you're staring at a blank screen with not enough clips and not enough thought of what is the order. We have some of our students are putting our magazine together right now, and they're putting videos together for their stories. And I'm watching them, and they're all just like, well, I have these videos. What do I do? And I'm like, what did you think through the process? Well, no, I just got some videos and some photos. Well, that doesn't help you. You're going to sit and stare at a computer for a long time. And I know you all are just as busy as I, and we don't have time to just sit there and stare and think, what should the storyline be? So you're better off thinking through it ahead of time. When you're driving in the car, heading, to pick up a family member or the groceries, thinking through that kind of stuff. Just when you have some time, and like I said, sketching it out on a napkin or a back of a mail envelope or something, just so you have an idea before you go to actually shoot, is going to save you loads of time in the end. When we think about videos and we think about online, some of the best videos that the best things that we see are that they are short, right? Online videos tend to be very short. A 3 to 5 minute online video has always sort of been the standard. Now, if you go to YouTube, you'll see that YouTube obviously a while ago opened up and allowed a lot longer videos. And you can have that for some very, directional videos or informational videos, but you really need to think about what's the purpose again of that video. Is this something to just quick and get people's attention, or is this like really a long how-to? If it's a quick attention thing, 3 to 5 minutes is really where you're going to start losing attention. Little things that people will notice quickly, like tripods and your subject actually being able to be seen. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in depth, but sound, making sure that they can hear you, having an actual intro. Most videos, after the first 10 seconds, people are going to stop the video if they don't see something that they like, if they don't see the types of information they're looking for, if the first 10 seconds doesn't give them a sort of a good intro to what's coming, they're going to click off and go to the next video, whether they're on YouTube, they're on a Facebook video, or something that you've sent them. So making sure that the first 10 seconds that we've got some really dynamic, some good images and some good clarity of where they're going will keep them going. Equipment, you can go everything from fancy to your cell phone. And I've seen a lot of really good videos made on cell phones. So I think a lot of times when we think we're going to make videos, we feel like we need to have all of this fancy equipment, and we need to we can't do it if we don't have that and all of the fancy software. You can make a decent video if you've planned through it and you've just got, you know, a good cell phone. Obviously, having a nice professional camera will probably give you a little bit more clarity on your image, allow you to have a little more smoothness when it comes to panning or moving in the video. It's also going to have a better audio system, a more professional camera. I will tell you, most DSLRs anymore also do video. So even if you have a good, you know, if your office is thinking I need to go get something, but I need a one for all, some of these DSLRs can do some really good video anymore. For a while, the DSLRs weren't very good about focusing when they were in video. You had to like continually be focusing it. But I know they've upgraded that and changed that. And I know there's movies being made on, you know, Canon Rebels and things like that. So you don't need to kill yourself on the equipment. In terms of cameras, having one or two camera, if you can have two cameras to get different angles, especially if you're doing an interview with somebody, that's really nice. If you've got somebody helping you videotape, one person, especially if it's an interview, having one person who's directly on and then having somebody maybe off to the side who's zoomed in a little bit more, zoomed out, that's going to give you more shots to play with and allow you to sort of vary the video a little bit and give some more dynamics to it rather than just sitting there and staring at one person. Not that that's bad, but having that other angle, like we saw in that first video, they were transitioning through different shots. That just added to the interest and the sort of allure of the story. So one or two, if you can have, if you've got an intern with you or, you know, somebody else who's with you who can grab just some simple shots on a phone could get you something that would be helpful. And this, so the thing I yell at my students all the time is making sure it's charged and that you have memory cards. To the point that every like 5 minutes in my photography class and videography class, I'm like, is your camera charged? Do you have our car charged batteries? Because the last thing you want to do is set up everything and get people out in a field or get people out at a barn or at a venue to film them and then your camera dies. You don't want to be that person. So, and I know you're all professionals and would never do that, but make sure it's charged, make sure you have multiple cards for memory. Make sure if you're using like a DSLR or something and you've got a memory card, clean off all of the other photos or videos that are on it. Start with a fresh card every single time. I think a lot of us are guilty of leaving our photos on our cards and our videos on cards, but that is not the place to store those things. Those cards go bad. Being pulled in and out of cameras and computers. So making sure you're storing things on other things. And when you go to a shoot that you've got clean space and ready to grab everything you can, so you don't run out of space. Microphones are a separate little beast. If you don't know, this little fuzzy thing on this camera here is actually called a dead cat. I always love telling the students that because it's the weirdest name for a microphone or for a piece of professional equipment, but they call it the dead cat. But what that is something to help diffuse audio, to help it be clearer. If you can have a boom mic, which is what is shown on here, something that's attached to the video camera and grabs more audio beyond just the cameras, that's going to help you. If you can get a lapel mic, you can buy some pretty cheap lapel mics on Amazon that you can actually attach even to a phone if you're recording on a phone. So it's worth the investment to grab. They don't go bad. You can use them for a while. The technology is not changing on them as quickly as it is on a computer or a phone. So you should be able to use it for a while, and it'll be a good investment in getting that audio. If you've been doing a lot of Zoom calls, you probably already have some type of microphone that you're using or a headset or something. That's beneficial even with video. If you're doing some voiceovers using those, it helps clear out the other sounds and makes it makes the sound more dynamic. And why does that matter? It just ups your professionalism on your video, right? If we don't have a lot of other noises. Tripods are huge, huge. With video, it's nice to be able to move around, but even moving a camera, even if you move it slowly, you may not realize the shake that's happening. Tripods can really help make motion a lot smoother on your camera. You can get fancy and buy slide things for your tripods and different things to help you really pan if you want to get to be a professional videographer. But you don't need that. Even if you just have a basic tripod to set your camera on, that's also going to help you as you're directing, because you're not having to hold the camera. You can actually look at the viewfinder and see what the image is coming in. You could be listening to the audio. A lot of times you can put headsets onto your camera so you're hearing the audio as it's recording. Things that are harder to do when you're actually holding the camera. And lighting is huge. If anybody's ever tried to light anything, that is important. And I'm going to show you an example here in a second of what you should consider. When you set up shots, make sure that you're watching. I always say, like, if you're interviewing somebody, whether you've got them sitting down or they're standing, making sure that you're picking a good spot to interview somebody. So whether it's in a field, in a barn, in the office, looking for a good background for them, and then setting the camera sort of at an eye level to that person. The other thing is if you are interviewing and talking with somebody, it really is important to where you stand in comparison to them. If you're not going to be on camera, you almost want to be sitting right beside the camera or just slightly in front and off to the side. So they're still sort of looking at you, but looking at the camera. So it's a little more natural for the person that's talking to you, and making it comfortable for them where they're sitting and standing, making sure that they're looking, at the camera, and looking, you really actually don't want them to stare at the camera. You want them to stare at you and talk to you. So it's a more natural conversation, which is why you need to be right next to the camera. And Emily, if you have any other thoughts on that, please feel free to jump in. I know you've done that before in your previous lifetime. But in interviewing and things and watching, it is important to where you stand versus where the camera is. She's going to ignore me. She's not going to say anything. I have to pick on her.
I think you're doing great. Track. Perfect.
Okay. It makes me nervous knowing I have a broadcast person on here listening to me.
Well, she had to learn from somewhere. So
no, yes, no. So some of the, things to think about, framing your shots becomes really, really important. And when we're thinking, like even in our storyboard, thinking through how we frame it is important even to that point. I threw this in here just so I'm sure all of you have heard these terms before, but make sure you understand panning left to right, tilting up and down. Those are things that you want to consider with your videos. We don't want to just be straight on. Sometimes it's nice to see the full scene, see a full piece of equipment, see a full piece, the full animal. Obviously tilting up and down on a human, that might be inappropriate at times. So, being careful how you do that. But, using some of that movement in your videoing can add some more dynamics to the video as well. The big thing with that, though, is making sure that you do it smoothly and you do not do it too quickly. We may think going, across isn't very fast, but our slow movement on video can look fast. So, playing with that and realizing when you're moving, how does that actually look on screen? And so playing with that before you're getting your final shot might be a good thing to make sure that you're not, making somebody sick. And I'm just realizing I should have shown you a video. I did some video one time where I put a GoPro on a lamb just to be able to see what a lamb sees. I thought, oh, this will be great, some B-roll for a video. And then I realized the entire time it made sense, but the lamb moving was going like this the whole time. It was a great example of what not to do when videotaping, because you don't want to make people sick. And that's important when you're panning and tilting. You don't want to go so fast and be so bumpy that it makes someone sick. And that's where tripods can help, because they can help you make that a smoother transition. With shots, I'm sure you've all heard of extreme close-ups and long shots, but these are things that you need to really think through. Yes, I stole this from Google. I need to grab some of these photos from some of my own videos sometime. But getting the extreme long shot, getting the long shot, the very long shot, getting a variety of different things. These are all grabbing the same person, looking at them, but it's showing very different things and very different moods and very different stories. That video I showed you right at the beginning, the close-up of Jay's hands really give you a feel about it versus the feel of watching him stand in front of the field at sunset. Those give you different emotions and they tell a different part of the story. So you want to make sure that you're getting a good variety of these different shots, right? So thinking through, do I want, some extreme shots? Do I want to see the whole scene? Do I just want to see the person? Thinking about headroom, how close are you putting that person in the frame? Where are you framing that person or that animal or that equipment, or really, whatever your subject is, making sure that there's headroom. If you look at these 3 photos, this is a lot of headroom for somebody, where coming in a little bit closer, that's a lot of space I don't need. But I also don't want to just like chip off his head by accident. You want to give him a little breathing room. We always talk about in photography the rule of thirds, and that is the same with videography and design, period. You break your subject or your view into a quadrants. Almost, I was to say, a tic-tac-toe board, where we break it into thirds. And you want to put the eyes of someone sort of right on that third line, or an animal, or an important piece. The other thing with this, when we're framing somebody, cutting, you'll see where people will cut off parts of people's heads. And I always tell my students, it's okay to do that if you're doing it purposefully. But if you're accidentally shaving an inch off of their head, that doesn't look good. The other thing I will point out on this frame is the boy's hand. If you look at this, there's some real tension in that framing of that image, because I cropped this image. This is an image I took, but I cropped it right at his joints. With photography, and it goes with videography as well, you don't want to crop people right at a joint. You want to be sort of in between joints, because it just adds some real conflict in the image. And it just makes you, subconsciously, you're like, wait a minute, where's their hand, or where's their foot, or where's the rest of their legs? So you want to make sure when you're framing things, you think through that headroom, where joints are of people, and how close you're going. Because sometimes, I'm sure you've all seen this gentleman before. This was, obviously this was a very intense interview that was done, and they did frame him in, and they did go really tight on him. They didn't give him headroom, but they did it purposefully to give some dynamic feeling to it. So as you're taking your shots and thinking through your shots, are you doing something that's that intense that you need that real close up, where you're going to want to intentionally give, take some of that piece away. The other thing, very basic framing, having lead room. You don't want people walking out of or looking out of your frame, because that's taking them away from your video. You want people to have lead room, place to walk or look into your imagery. So having all of this space in front of him gives him this lead room, gives you more for your eye to stop at, where here he's leaving and we have all of this white space behind him, but it's sort of an afterthought. So the better image and the better video is going to give him this lead room. And it also gives you a chance, if that person is walking, they're not going to walk out of the frame for you. You're able to pan with them. I was looking at a video yesterday of a student, and she had like a squirrel, and she had the squirrel right at this edge, and she was filming it, and the squirrel just kept running out of the frame. And I'm like, you needed to back up. So you were, sort of thinking through that and anticipating where they were going to go, and giving them that room to go. I'm guessing not many of you are going to videotape squirrels. I'm not really sure why she was, but that was the clip she brought. So other things, this is my daughter. I had to throw a picture of my daughter in just for fun. Looking at angles, I always tell students, if you're not getting up on something or laying on the ground at some point, you're not doing this right. When getting imagery for video or photos, looking at different angles. If you're just standing there at square level, you're not getting some good stuff. And it may not be your interview that you do that at, but think through the B-roll, especially thinking through, can we, get down on the ground and look at the tractor driving away, or the kids, I videotaped a show one time and put the camera literally at the entry gate at their feet. And I just got videotape of kids' feet and lamb's legs. And it was just a great sort of intro shot. And it didn't really show that, but it started the story and gave us a feel. So grab some of that B-roll. I threw these in here because when you look down at somebody in an image, moving or not, it makes them seem more innocent and sort of passive. Where if you look up at somebody, so this is more looking down, but you look up at somebody, it gives them more dominant feel, more sort of that bigger than life feel. So if you're trying to make something or somebody look more dominant, look bigger, you want to look up at them a little bit. Where if you're trying to make it sort of that innocent, soft feel, looking down on something is better. The other thing I threw in here is looking at people's perspective. Voyeurism is a big part of visuals and putting ourselves into the image that we're watching. So seeing her looking out is a different perspective and can add some different interest to your storyline. So think through your angles as you're shooting. And again, like I said, we want to storyboard this, but you may get to that point where you're shooting and you just see something that you hadn't thought of. Grab it. Again, it could be great for this project, or it could be some stock photo or video for another. And I keep citing photo and video because even for a video, a lot of times we may throw a still image in here and there. So it's okay to have some of those still images as part of your video series. Watch your backgrounds. Very classic, terrible case study of this. If you remember many years ago now, I feel like it was just a little while ago, but it's been a while. Sarah Palin crisis debacle where she was doing an interview at a turkey killing facility at Thanksgiving. And she's talking about forgiving or pardoning turkeys or something like that. And behind her, they're literally putting the turkeys into the grinder. And it became this huge news thing of, killing during her press conference, there's turkeys being killed behind her. That became the news and the story, not what she was saying. I don't expect any of you to do something that crazy, but watch your backgrounds, totally watch your backgrounds. Watch what's going to be happening behind the video, because our eyes are going to go towards whatever is moving in our video. And so if I'm videotaping a soil expert talking, but then some kids walking behind him, my attention is not on what he's saying, it's on the kid walking behind him all of a sudden. and I miss the message. So watching what's happening in the background of your video is important. You know, if it's equipment moving and it's going with it, that can work. But you don't want something that's a surprise behind you. The other thing is you also want to watch just general things. And I don't know that I actually did a good job of showing you this. Let's see if I can go back. And sort of give you an example of this, but watch that they don't have something coming out of them. Like here, sort of, there's like a post sort of coming out of her, some like weird black thing coming out of her. Watch where you're framing people, that you're not putting a post through their head or anything random like that. I like to pretend I'm a good photographer, so I'm not doing that, but watch those things with video as well. Lighting is huge. You can have the best story and the best audio, but if you're showing them a black screen or a person who is completely backlit, it is not going to help that. This is a visual medium. They've got to be able to see your source. So you've got to think where your light source is, whether you're in a room or you're outside. You want your light to be behind you as the camera, facing your subject, right? So in this drawing here, this is a great example of like ideal lighting for something. Having the camera next to it, a fill light. A fill light would be something that's going to fill in all of the shadows that are happening, along with a main light. So if we're outside in the sun is probably our main light, or if we're next to a window, that's going to be our main light. But a second light, if you can, that's going to fill in shadows, is really nice to have. The other thing that's nice to have, if you can possibly do it, is a backlight. And what a backlight does is it shines essentially against the background, and it makes the person pop out. And it's like it gives a drop shadow to your subject, essentially. So instead of putting drop shadow in PowerPoint text, you're doing it on your subject. The flip side of that is if you only have light from behind the person and you're filming and you don't have these other two lights, you then have this very dark subject and you just have that sort of outline. That's where we get the cowboy riding away into the sunset look, which might be what you're trying to do with a shot, but you really need to think about, where is your light? Where is that main or catch key light coming from? Can you put some fill in there? Can you get some backlight? And some of that is thinking through how you can bounce light. We go back to basic physics of bouncing light. If I've got a window here and I'm interviewing somebody and they're really nicely lit in my video while they're talking, but they're very dark on this other side, you can do something as simple as a white sheet, or I even tell my students, like, get a cookie sheet and have somebody prop it up or stand there and let that window light bounce off of that back onto the person. We don't have to have these expensive lights. DIY, you don't have to have expensive equipment. Get some shop lights to put up. Grab some flashlights and rig them up in front of somebody or beside somebody. Metal, white, those things reflect light. So if we're out in a barnyard or something, or at the fairgrounds, and we need some light, put them right by a white barn that can bounce some light into them, or next to put them where there's some chrome that's going to bounce some light. Watch where your lighting is. It can really play into a good and a bad video. Again, a shop light, a heat lamp out in a barn, you might have to watch the color that it's reflecting, because you want to make sure your coloring is still good. And some of those heat lamps will give off more of a yellow light, but get creative, think through what can those lights be. The other thing I will tell you is watching, again, the coloring of those lights and where you place somebody. If you've got somebody at a fair and you've got like a bright neon sign next to them, that neon sign color is going to pop over onto them. So watching where light is and watching where color is becomes important. And in a pinch, sheets are an amazing backdrop. I keep a couple sheets in my office, a white one and a green one. because if we need to do something and we don't have a good backdrop, I can throw with some tape a white sheet up on the wall and we have a backdrop and it's not as distracting, or I can throw a green one and have a green screen real quick. So as crazy as that seems, the dollar store sheets can be very helpful in a pinch. So get creative. We don't need this fancy equipment. Yes, it can help, but we don't have to have all the fancy. The number one rule of videography is you want a horizontal image. You don't know how many times we get photos where it's like this. You turn your camera. I don't know why it's not natural for us to just turn a camera. If you have a professional video camera, it's going to already give it to you on a horizontal. If you're using a DSLR, it's going to already give you the horizontal. But when people take video on one of these, they consistently give you vertical. If you ask somebody to grab some video of something for you to put together in your project, yes, Danae, exactly. Unless you're filming for TikTok, that is very true. There are times I yell at my students a lot and say, don't forget that at times you do need some vertical for some of our social media pieces, but YouTube and some of those horizontal video is better. And if you have that, I will tell you the trick that people do a lot of times is this, where they will take the image and sort of stretch it out and get it blurred and make it horizontal. So it's cropped. You'll see it's just part of this image, and then put the full image over it. A lot of broadcast do that when they've got that and they're dealing with that. So I think it's accepted and it works. It can be a little distracting depending on your image. I think with this, the blue makes it a little hard, but yeah. So thinking through, and you're planning, do you need vertical? Do you need horizontal? And making sure you have the right when you need it is very, very important. Other things to think through, watching continuity, watching your jump cuts and your flows of your shot flows. I had a professor when I was in grad school whose favorite thing to do was watch movies and try and find incontinuities in things. So where the wand was in this hand and then all of a sudden it was in this hand and we never saw him move it, those kinds of, jump cuts. So watch that, if you're filming 2 days that the person's wearing the same clothes, if that's what you're trying to do, they're standing on the same side. If you take a break, watching that continuity. Yeah, Misty, it is fun to try and find those things. But it also can ruin your video experience if you're watching movies, but watching that flow, watching, that screen direction, making sure that you're continuing to have some of continuity as you pull it together. The biggest things to think as you're shooting, watching your shake and watching your lighting. The other thing I tell my students a lot of times is the best zoom is your 2 feet. As you zoom on a camera, whether still or video, there starts to be more motion, because as the lens and the glass goes away from the sensor, there's a little bit of shake that happens, and you don't notice it, but it can be enough to see when you actually view your video. So the further you zoom out from a camera, especially on video, the more you're going to get that shake. And you'll see there's lenses for things that have anti-shake, but still the best zoom is your 2 feet. If you can move closer to things, you're better off. The other thing is shoot for editing, making sure that when you're shooting, you give yourself a second before they start talking. That's why they have the little I forget what they're called, the little things that pop up and say action. A lot of times when I'm shooting or doing audio, I will clap my hands real hard. So I know that when I see that clappers, thank you, that makes sense. When I see that little shot up in sound, I know that's where I'm going to edit. So thinking for editing, giving yourself a little leeway at the beginning and the end of shots, giving yourself some pauses as you're shooting will help you when you get into your computer to edit. You can zoom in during the editing. You're right. That's a good point, Misty. The kicker to that would be is how much you zoom in. At some point, you'll start pixelating the image. So there's only so much zooming in you will want to do. And some of that too will go to, you know, how high of a resolution does that video need to be? I realize I'm talking too long. So, you know, thinking through titles, music, I did want to give you real quick. I wanted to show you a couple quick things. Transitions. This is a good transition where it's very gentle and it's not noticeable, right? Let me see, I'll show you a not so tasteful transition. I know you guys know this, but I want to remind you. That is not a tasteful transition. I told my students, just because you can do it does not mean you should be doing it, right? The other thing I want to really warn you and keep you from doing on your videos is what we call the Ken Burns effect. And you'll know this effect the minute you see it. And there's audio only. That beautiful effect where you zoom in and you zoom out. No, that it can be done once or twice and have a nice effect, but if you do it on every image, it is sickening to people. So do not do that. Yeah, Danae, shooting at that 4K gives you a lot more play for that zooming in. So having that higher quality gives you the ability. Couple real quick, I'm almost done. Some on this, I've got some good audio and B-roll sites, free and cost. Good things to think about as you're recording your audio, things to think about in terms of size and what quality you need for audio. You know, thinking 48 to 56K is mono, 64 is stereo, 128 stereo, good quality. The other thing, thinking size as you think through what size you're cropping to. These are sort of the standard sizes. Obviously, we've gotten a little bit different. I even leave CD-ROM on here because I know sometimes we still do DVDs and CDs of things. But thinking through those sizes, I just wanted you to have them. Compression, you know, thinking, you know, how you shoot and how many, the less pans, the less zooms, the less transitions make your compression time go a little bit faster. But the more you keep your composition and lighting simple, the better it is, the smaller the file, which is good for online for sure. YouTube, making sure you guys have a channel. If you do, making it unique, making it fun, having hyperlinks. Anytime you can have hyperlinks in the discussion, it's going to get you more attention. And the last thing I'll leave you with really, with videos online, if you want to get found, having your URL to your video, sharing it different places, but you really got to make the title meaningful. And you've really got to make whatever that image you post up there of the video meaningful. Actually take the time to select it, because people, when they're going through YouTube, they're actually looking at titles and they're looking at that image, and that's what's drawing them in. And then sharing them beyond YouTube, sharing them beyond Vine, sharing them beyond TikTok, getting those things out there. The more you can, the more people are going to find you for sure. With that, I just get excited and I talk too long, so I apologize. We're at 10, but if anybody has any questions or thoughts, I am more than happy to help you or talk through things. This is my contact. Do you find that a short, simple, and creative URL is helpful? I think it does in terms of memory if you're going to be handing that URL out. But it's going to be better to have a good picture and a good title on YouTube than it is what your URL says. So it's really how you're using this video. That's going to be way more important, because that's what people are looking for when they're on YouTube. And if you ever want to sit down and talk about how to make your YouTube channel get a little more hits and things, I'm more than happy to sit and brainstorm with any of you. So. Any questions?
as we have people thinking, I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much, Dr. Buck, for being here and for the information. As you can see, we've got some chats and questions and things coming in, so we appreciate this very much. I am posting into the chat right now, again, our web page, the landing page. This is where the recording to this session will be posted, which will then link you to our LOD YouTube channel, which has a lot more. And I'm going to repost the survey as well. If you can please take a moment to give us some feedback and offer suggestions for future topics as well. But thank you again, Dr. Buck, and thank you for everyone being here. We can probably stick around for a few minutes to have questions, but thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
Hi, everybody.